Welcome to the Economic Matters Committee. Roll call. We have committee member Rob Savage. We are short a committee member in that Mark Rodriguez, Alderman Rodriguez, has gone on to bigger and better things. So it's two of us, Rob. We can handle this. The first item is appointment of the chair of the Economic Matters Committee.
I would like to move that Alderwoman Finlayson be appointed chair until a replacement is named, permanent replacement is named.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next item is approval of the agenda from the July 16th meeting.
Move approval of the agenda.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye. Of approving the agenda as written, please say aye. Aye. All right, and then we're on to appointments and reappointments to committees. We have 4 reappointments, and I understand Ms. Raftovich is going to be here to speak to those. And then there are 4 appointments, and I suspect that the candidates are online for those positions. Is that correct, Ms. Raftovich?
You have 2 of them.
Okay. So the first reappointment is of Robert Gallagher to the Board of Appeals.
So we have 3 reappointments to the Board of Appeals today. Bob Gallagher, who is the current chair of Board of Appeals, Andrew Burnett, and Michael Walsh. I did check all of their voter registration status. This board is the only one in the city that requires that its members be registered voters. And I did confirm that all 3 are current registered voters. Mr. Gallagher has served since 2013. He was appointed by Mayor Cohen. He was reappointed by Mayor Panelides, and the current mayor would like to see him reappointed again. He is an attorney, but he also has experience with environmental organizations. He was a founder of River Keepers, Rhodes West River Keepers, as well as a co-founder of Maryland, the local chapter of the Maryland Conservation League, and works with the Scenic River Trust. He is a homeowner in Ward 1, and he was recommended for reappointment by staff, by the administrator to the boards, as well as Dr. Nash.
Okay, so the first reappointment is for Mr. Robert Gallagher. Can I get a motion?
Yes, I'll move that we recommend favorable to reappoint Robert Gallagher to the Board of Appeals.
Okay, and I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The second reappointment is for Mr. Andrew Burnett. Ms. Raftovich?
Mr. Burnett is also a member of the Board of Appeals. He was also recommended by staff for reappointment, as well as recommended by the chair for reappointment. The chair pointed out that both Mr. Burnett and Mr. Walsh, the 2 other Board of Appeals members that are up tonight, were good representatives for the business community in particular, and offered good balance on the board in that sense. Mr. Burnett is a lawyer who's done public and private practice. He has both an MBA and a JD.
And what ward does he represent?
I'm sorry, Ward 4, your ward.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I will move that we recommend favorably the reappointment of Andrew Burnett to the Board of Appeals.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and well, why don't we go on to Mr. Michael Walsh, his reappointment to the Board of Appeals. Ms. Raftovich?
Mr. Walsh has also served since 2017. He is a representative from Ward 8, and he is involved. He was involved locally in community service, Rotary, volunteers at the U.S. Naval Academy, and in his previous community, he was also very involved in the community. He has a BA in political science and a JD. He has been a lawyer, teacher, and professor. He was also recommended for reappointment by both the chair and staff of the planning department.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion if there are no questions.
I will move that we recommend favorably the reappointment of Michael Walsh to the Board of Appeals.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then the last reappointment is for Bobby Collins to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Ms. Collins was recommended for reappointment by both the Historic Preservation staff and the chair of that commission. She is a resident of Ward 2 and has worked in facilities management and program management. She is also very involved in the community, including Habitat for Humanity, which I thought was a good fit for this sort of board.
And how long has she served?
Since 2017.
Okay, Ward 2.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Alderman Savage, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, I would like to move that we recommend favorably the reappointment of Bobby Collins to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay, and I'll second it. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we go on to the new appointments. The first one is Mr. David Height to the Heritage Commission. Mr. Height, are you on line with us? I see him, but he is muted. Mr. Height, can you unmute?
Yes.
Thank you.
I hope I have.
You have. I hear you loudly and clearly. Thank you. So tell us about yourself. You're interested in joining the Heritage Commission.
Yes, I was on it when it was originally the Annapolis Historical Markers Commission, when Dick Israel was working on it. And I got off it after 7 or 8 years, I guess. And then I've been going to all of the meetings anyway. I was a history teacher in New Hampshire for 30 years. And when I moved to Annapolis, I was interested in Annapolis history and got connected with Jane McWilliams and Jean Russo and Robert Warden. And so Dick Israel recommended me for that original commission. So I was going to, they asked me to rejoin, so I said I would apply, and here I am.
Well, thank you. So you know exactly what the work of the commission entails, since
Yes.
you were here from the beginning.
Yes.
So, well, wonderful. Well, thank you for continuing to volunteer. Alderman Savage, do you have a question for Mr. Height?
No, just thank you for your willingness to serve again. It's rare that we see people come back to the commissions. And so I think that's good. I think you'll bring some new, another perspective to the board. And based on your background, it's very impressive. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Height, what ward do you represent?
Ward 1.
Ward 1, okay. All right, thank you. Alderman, I'll entertain a motion to,
Okay. Yes, I'll move that we recommend favorably the appointment of David Height to the Heritage Commission.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Mr. Height, your nomination will go before the full council, I guess at Monday's meeting. Is that correct, Ms. Green? Will these appointments be on Monday's agenda?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think it's necessary, Mr. Height, that you'll be present for that. But if you'd like to attend, please feel free. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good one now.
Thank you.
Our next appointment is for Corey Childs to the Recreation Advisory Board.
We don't have them present. We don't have Corey Childs or Amy, I think her last name is Burdick.
Okay, so we'll put them on the agenda for the next meeting. Ms. Rakovich, could you make sure they are made aware that they'll be on the next meeting agenda? Okay, the next appointment is for Mr. Samuel Wayland Biddle to the Heritage Commission. Is Mr. Biddle with us? Yes, he is.
Unmute. Yeah. Am I now? One moment.
You are on. Well, welcome, and tell us about your interest in the Heritage Commission.
Sure. If you don't mind, I have a brief statement. That would be my preferred way to start.
Sure.
Yeah. So I applied about 6 months ago now. A lot's happened since then, but it's only strengthened my interest and commitment to serving on this commission. I've lived downtown my whole life, except for going to college. And I love Annapolis, all the facets and all the things you can discover. Currently, I work downtown at Starbucks, and I've seen the appeal firsthand and the importance of the city's heritage to our commerce, rain, shine, or pandemic. Yesterday, I was working with someone from Washington State, and they emphasized how cool it is to have history brought to life by being here. For many, walking in the footsteps of our founders is a treat, and one we shouldn't take lightly, though, to be honest, I often do. I take it for granted. There are other stories to tell, ones that didn't make it into textbooks and ones that have but need more elaboration. And I think with all we've seen recently, the heightened engagement with racial prejudice, civil unrest, changing times, I think the stories that the work that the Heritage Commission does is important and could end up being vastly more important. We're lucky we don't have any very large Confederate statues in the middle of the city. We don't have the Taney statue was on state grounds, but the heritage, there's certainly heritage that could be a contest here. And I'm really interested in engaging with that story, having seen the activity that's happened further south. I lived in Richmond, Virginia briefly before all of this, and I drove down Monument Avenue every day. And I really think that there's an opportunity here to get things right. I want to see Annapolis stay on the right side of history, so to speak.
Well, thank you. And you, I'm sure, would bring a different perspective because we all think about heritage as old. And you're a young man with a very different perspective. And, you know, I think you would be a welcome addition to the Heritage Commission. Alderman Savage, do you have a question or comment?
No, just to echo what you said, Alderwoman. I think I want to thank you for your interest, Mr. Biddle. I think your perspective will be very helpful, and I'm really glad to hear it because I think it'll bring in the perspective based on the current events and current struggles that we have, and bringing that to Annapolis. And I think that's definitely absolutely needed. So yeah, thank you again.
Sure. I mean, I applied before all of this, but just to reiterate, it's the work of the Heritage Commission and the issues it touches have only become more important in the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for hearing me out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for volunteering your service to the city. We appreciate it. Alderman, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, I would like to move that we recommend favorably the appointment of Mr.
It's Samuel or Sam. Perfect. You don't need that name.
To the Heritage Commission.
And I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Biddle, for joining us today. And as I said earlier, for the previous candidate, your nomination will go before the full council on Monday. You don't need to be there, but if you'd like to come and make a statement, you could do that then too.
Well, thank you very much for hearing me out. I figure I can make it. I just want to say thank you to Ms. Green for getting me onto this call. I honestly didn't know it was happening until this morning, but I was very happy to jump on. So thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Raftovich, as well. And thank you very much for approving the motion.
Have a good one now.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is legislative items. The first ordinance is 02120 for the purpose of approving the conveyance of certain city-owned property to 113 Cathedral Street, LLC, expressly authorizing said conveyance to be made at private sale and not at public auction, expressly finding that the city-owned land to be conveyed is not needed for public use, and generally relating to said conveyance. We postponed action on this legislation at our last meeting. And I think Director Jarrell and City Attorney Lyles and Director Nash were all present to help us navigate through this legislation. So to whom can we count on today to answer questions and explain where we are? I see Mr. Lyles. I think one of the questions we had related to access to this property and the fact that they would forever have to purchase 2 parking spaces in the surface lot on Larkin Street. It's not Larkin Street anymore.
Well, you have the directors here. She can speak more to that area. I would just say that we reviewed the legality of the land transfer and find that the transfer is legally sufficient and supported by the code and the authority of the director to make such a recommendation.
And did you receive, we received a very large packet from Attorney Evans, I believe it is, that included the appraisal for the property. I'm not sure. I think we just received it yesterday. Dr. Nash, did you receive it?
No, I didn't.
I can forward it to Dr. Nash.
Okay.
Just because there is something I'd like to confirm with you.
It's one. There are 4 attachments. One is 93 pages.
Jesus, too big to send.
It may be. It took 2 tries for me to send it to Miss Green. But could you try to send it? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderwoman?
Yes.
May I jump in?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I found the memorandum and site plan very helpful. I wanted to thank Matthew Evans for sending that to us. And he did express some frustration about being unable to participate in our previous committee meetings. And, I think it may be worthwhile to, as much as I hate to put this off again, maybe worthwhile to postpone it so we can invite him to the meeting to help clarify this. But in the meantime, I think there are a few things that I think we could discuss. And one of them, I was wondering if Ms. Green, could you put up, or Julian, could you put up the site plan that Mr. Evans sent? Because I wanted to ask Dr. Nash about this.
Yes, give us 1 second.
Thank you. Can you scroll? There you go. Can you scroll down a little bit so the yellow is kind of right in the center? There you go. So, Dr. Nash, I have one question about this. So, this seems to show that the yellow is the city-owned property that we would be selling to the owners. So, but it looks like a total of 4 parking spots, those blue squares, the parking pads. And so according to this, it looks like actually 2 of the pads would be installed on private property. And then the other 2 on the right would be partially on private, but mostly on land that city property that we would sell to them. I just wanted to make sure that's correct. Dr. Nash, if you have any, I don't know, maybe you don't have any background on this, but just wanted to see if we could get a clarification on that.
I don't know offhand. I can research and have it verified. So your question is the yellow indeed city property?
Yeah, because I mean, this is helpful because I think previously we were assuming the whole back area was city property. This, I think paints a different story. And at least for me. So, Alderwoman, I'm kind of going through this because I think, so just explain the whole project again. The green X's towards the bottom are the 2 city lots in the city parking lot that we would have to lose, although they would be paying us for those lost spaces. We'd be losing those because that would be their egress for the 4 new spots at the top of the picture. That's my understanding anyway. And I think my one concern I mentioned, what we talked about last time was some of the financial impact, but again, it sounds like they'll be reimbursing us for those spots. My other concern had to do with the environmental aspect in terms of just this would be city property that we could, it's currently grass, although the city does not maintain it. The property owner does, but it's currently grass, an area that we could potentially make into a rain garden. And Mr. Evans did acknowledge that and spoke to that. And he did bring up the point that, and it's listed on here, that he's willing to make the parking pads be pervious surfaces, which would be better for stormwater, allow the water to soak in. And he also expressed openness to putting in some kind of rain garden. So at least for me, that sounds like a reasonable compromise. I think it's great that the property owner is willing to do that. But I guess my one question for the committee would be if and for the law office would be, well, maybe we want to give this more time to another meeting so we can work out some of the details. Maybe the property owner would be willing to give us some more details about what they're willing to do and to address those concerns with the environmental concerns. And then be willing to speak to us about any other questions we may have at the next meeting. And the second issue I wanted to just bring up was just a larger issue with SP Plus, because one of the things that I kept asking myself was, well, why can't they just purchase 4 of the spots in the city parking lot to the south? And in the letter that was sent to us, it sounds like a lot of the monthly passes are already sold out in not only this lot, but some of the nearby lots that were mentioned. And I guess this may not be an appropriate question for this committee, maybe the transportation committee, but I'm kind of curious. It seems like we should be talking to SP Plus about prioritizing spots for the nearby businesses, especially the adjacent businesses and owners and the residents to be able to use in some fashion, because that may have allowed us to avoid having to go into this situation to begin with. So that's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, if my memory serves me from the past in dealing with our parking surface lots as well as our garages, those passes, especially on the surface lots, were utilized by business owners for the most part. And Dr. Nash, you may be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but we should be able to have that information. You're right, Alderman. I'm looking at the map that you have up on the screen, and is this the same map we saw before? Because this looks very different. I'm not seeing the Larkin Street surface lot. I'm seeing two spaces that the property owners want to rent from us. But I don't, if I'm reading it the way you just described it, the two big green X's are the spaces that they want to lease from us into perpetuity so they can get into their the pad they're trying to purchase from us now. Is that correct?
Yes, to my understanding. I think, the Larkin lot is not shown, but it's, I guess, the area around those green X's at the bottom.
Because I'm just not sure that they're even in proportion. Dr. Nash, can you help us?
I am afraid I cannot, because I agree this looks different than what I last saw about this, and I feel like I might be missing some of the information that I need to have before you.
Is there any urgency for us to deal with this? I mean, we don't have clarification. Mr. Lyles, unless you can shed some light on what we're asking about.
I understand your question. Your initial question was whether or not they needed these two spaces at the bottom to get to their property, and the answer is yes. Second, whether or not there is a size differential between what we're seeing now and what we saw in the past, can't answer that one. But I am aware that these two spaces were being requested for access, and the city council has the authority to grant such access under the deal that's being proposed, which is a lease.
So what I'm looking at, the yellow section, the narrow yellow, is that roadway that they are proposing to purchase from the city?
Well, that seems to be additional parking spaces. The problem is the city owned the yellow. They want to purchase that. But in order to use it, they need to get to it. And they can't get to it from Larkin Street unless these two green spaces, P1 and P2, are leased.
Okay, but that narrow strip that comes, it appears, it comes from West Street. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the yellow?
Yes.
The bottom? Yeah, I think what happens is they just want, well, it's an odd configuration of what we own. But in agreeing to sell all of what's colored in yellow or highlighted in yellow, they have the ability to make some additional parking spaces. And the city, as a city manager opined in the staff report, we don't need the land, and it's not really usable in any form but to the individuals who are abutting it.
Okay. Then the green boxes are out of proportion if that yellow narrow strip is a street or will be used for parking.
Yeah, I don't believe that yellow narrow strip is a street. I just believe it's additional space we owned that was oddly configured, but as conveyed, it would just allow them to park another vehicle or two in that space. They could turn it into parking spaces.
Okay.
Or ingress and egress. But it was, what we own is just a weird configuration.
Okay. Well, I agree with Alderman Savage that I don't think we're kind of ready to take a vote on supporting this yet. Would Dr. Nash, would it be you or Director or City Manager Gerald or Mr. Lyles be responsible for reaching out to the property owner, not the property owner, that's us, the law firm that's trying to purchase this? That's who you've been dealing with, Mr. Lyles?
Not really. We haven't had any dealings with the property owner because, you know, it's mostly a planning and zoning kind of use thing. We don't deal with them until we get approval to sell or rent the property.
Have you seen the appraisal?
If I have, I don't remember seeing it. I probably have seen it.
That may be part of what was just sent to you by Ms. Green, the 93-page document. But
I haven't had a chance to go and look at it.
Yeah, well, it's an extensive document, but the numbers seem to be the same as far as purchase price, not 8,600. Sorry, for the lot referenced in 021 and $1 for the lot referenced in 022. Anyway, I will entertain a motion. Dr. Nash, if you can, unless you can shed some more light on this for us, I will entertain a motion to postpone action on this.
Okay, I'm looking through the appraisal. It makes a little bit more sense to me now that, yes, the yellow is leftover land from urban development, which must be why it's shaped so oddly. And then it was sort of just kind of adopted by these 113 Cathedral Street people. So that is what is meant to be conveyed to these property owners so they can park. And then the yellow, I don't know if, I think they need that in order to be able to pull in to their property, the little narrow yellow strip.
Are you seeing a different map other than the one that we're seeing?
No, so they'll come in, if you can imagine below the green rectangles with the X's in them, they'll drive in there from the left where Larkin Street, the Larkin Street parking lot is, and then they'll pull through the 115 will pull through the X on the left to these parking pads that he's showing there. And then 113 will pull through the space on the right to these parking pads that they're showing in the purple, that they're saying that they will install with an impervious surface. So that makes a little bit more sense to me now. So the yellow is city property now.
Yeah, I was just questioning that narrow yellow strip, and I'm still not seeing how they're going to maneuver from P1 into the larger yellow area so that they can.
They won't. They won't necessarily. It will all become one big rectangle, and so they'll have to. If 115 is driving in through P1, they'll have to cross that narrow strip, which is why they have to buy that as well. And then they'll pull into where it says parking pad and it has the purple rectangle.
Okay. Alderwoman, it may help. I found another image. Julian, could you put up one of those that I guess the second one might be good that I sent you? This kind of just shows you, Alderwoman, what it looks like. So that's the Larkin lot to the south with the white truck.
Okay. So are we looking at the two gray buildings that are kind of recessed back beyond the green area? Is that 115 on the left and 113 on the right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I guess I have one question for Mr. Lyles. I think if yeah, this is at least an interest of mine, but if we could get, if the owner was willing to include some green infrastructure to kind of address the stormwater concern, would that be, he did write that on the document that was sent to us. I'm just wondering if there's what the best way would be to include that in the legislation. Would it be to simply amend it, put it somewhere in the resolution? I'm sorry, in the ordinance, or would it be to attach one of the a new document that may have been sent?
I'd have to think about that, particularly because I'd have to figure out the authority to do it, and what the council actually desires. Sitting here now, listening to it, it's not clear that I'm not clear with the direction. Okay. Yeah, but I could get clear, but I can't answer the question right now.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we'll have time.
Yeah.
Sounds like we'll most likely be postponing it until next month anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that because I need some more clarification on where the 2 parking pads would go. Would they displace the green space?
That's right, where the grass is now.
And Alderman, do you have an idea of where your proposal of rain gardens or any, whatever environmental amenities would be added, where that would go in reference to, because it sounds like that's something that needs to be negotiated along with the contract.
Yeah, no, I don't have any idea. I just saw that in the documents that were sent to us yesterday. So I think I can reach out to them and see what they're willing to do, and maybe they could sketch it on that one plan view that they sent to us. I mean, they did indicate on their permeable pavers, which is good. Yeah, so I'll reach out to them.
Okay. And Mr. Lyles, you said we don't negotiate with them. We're in the process of creating an agreement, I guess, for sale. And would that agreement delineate any expectations that we have for, green amenities?
It could.
Okay.
Yeah, it could.
It sounds like that's the interest. So,
if I can get from the committee through the council exactly what the intent is, we could negotiate something that's appropriate and within the desires of the council. Sure, they may not want it, but we could certainly ask for it.
Okay, Alderman.
I certainly don't want to. I certainly don't want to be too much of a burden on the property owner, but if they're willing to explore potential green infrastructure, I think that could be a win-win. They get the parking spots and we get some stormwater improvement.
Well, the other thing too is to think about, pervious surfaces instead of non-pervious surfaces or impervious surfaces. So they could do some things like that may get us halfway there. But but whatever you indicate to us as your desire, we'll speak with the city manager and the director of planning and zoning and craft an appropriate ask and see what our limits are.
Okay.
So do you need an action from the full council, or can this committee make a request of you to include that? Whose legislation is this? The mayor's?
Well, the city council or the committee could make a request, it would have really no city council authority other than the city manager acting upon your request to direct his director to ask. If the city wanted to stand fast, then I think you need something like a resolution from the council that puts a flagpole and this is where we're going to stand fast and not negotiate any further. Other than that, the city manager is kind of acting in accordance with his department directives and doing what he thinks is best and offering that to the city. The city council has to ultimately vote for the sale. So it won't pass without a city council vote. That's per the code. So you have to be happy with it.
Okay. So Alderman Savage, would you have a dialogue with them to see what they're willing to do and let us know how stringent you want to be with them, if at all?
I could do that.
Yeah. Okay. And then you'll get back to Mr. Lyles.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. So I'll entertain a motion to postpone action on both 021 and 22.
All right. I will move that we postpone action.
Okay. And I'll second it. One other item as far as discussion is concerned. Dr. Nash, did you want to add something? Oh, okay. Mr. Lyles, will it be included in the contract, their leasing of this space into perpetuity?
I'm sorry, ask your question one more time, madam.
The two spaces in our lot that they're going to have to lease for forever.
Yes.
Will that be codified in the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question because now that you mentioned that, was it a one-time payment or was it an annual payment in perpetuity?
It's annual.
An annual payment in perpetuity. It'll be a deed. When we deed over the land, we will include the rental of the two spaces and we will record all of it.
Okay. Because I can see 20 years down the road, somebody saying, well, we said we would pay this amount and we've paid that amount and we're done. And those spaces are ours. So
basically it'll be an easement provision in the deed transfer of the main property. And the easement will run with the land and that will all get recorded. So anyone could go and look and see that our rights are protected by a recorded deed.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the motion to postpone, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of postponing 021 and 02220, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item on our agenda. Thank you, Mr. Lyles, Director Nash. We're going on to reports now. We should have an update from the Economic Development Manager. Mr. Rice, are you with us? Yes, you are.
I am. Thank you. I'll get right started. We've been very busy in economic development. We have 11 recovery zones spread out across the city, and we have to balance some competing interests in managing those recovery zones. We deal with issues such as parking, trash collection, loading zones, barricades. Of course, we had to manage the deployment of parklets or sidewalk extensions. And all in all, I think the recovery zones have gone pretty well. And we have had some hiccups, and we definitely have some. Sometimes we have some challenges with regard to making sure that the businesses understand what the rules are or reinforcing what those rules are. But all in all, I think it's gone pretty well. We also have more recently done a soft launch of a small business recovery hub. And this is a geolocation tool. Basically, it enables residents and also visitors to go to a website. If they're interested in a particular type of business in Annapolis or a specific business, they can input information through a search tool and bring up the information on that business and also where that business is on a city map. So it's a pretty neat tool. We've done a soft launch and asked members of the Small Business Recovery Task Force, who are business owners, to input their information. And once we, work out any sort of kinks or what have you, we'll make it available to a much wider audience. We're currently in the process of looking at and planning for fall and winter. We've started to have some meetings about Halloween and what will happen with that. Also, Midnight Madness, whether or not we're able to move forward with these events, and if we do move forward, what will the events actually look like? The conversations have been preliminary thus far, but we're going to continue those conversations and also engage some different departments as well. We have recently been engaged since this recovery zone activity has been rolled out and operationally picked up. We've been engaged by some residents associations who have requested updates from economic development on what's happening in the recovery zones, and they've wanted to have an opportunity to ask us questions and to get clarification. So recently met with the Ward 1 Residents Association. Actually, their last two meetings, economic development was present and participated and answered questions. And upcoming, we have the Eastport Community Association, where we're going to have a similar kind of opportunity to talk to the residents directly and answer their questions regarding recovery zones. The other thing I did want to share is that we are, last year, as we kicked off our Shop Local initiative. It was entitled Love Annapolis, Shop Annapolis. We're planning to do the same thing this year, but a little bit more modified. So not just Love Annapolis, Shop Annapolis, but Love Annapolis, Dine Annapolis, Love Annapolis, Stay Annapolis. And we're trying to be a little bit more participatory and touch other business types that are also having challenging times. So I'm sure you're familiar with the Small Business Recovery Task Force and some of the work that we've done there. So I won't go through any of that, but that's kind of an update of what's been happening on the economic development front.
Okay, go ahead, Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a couple questions for you. Just wondering how you would gauge the economic impact locally from COVID, or maybe it's too early to tell. And if you have any kind of metrics yet on that you could look at in terms of the impact, like are there different areas or different sectors of the area businesses that are impacted? I know there are certain types that are, but is there I wonder if there's a racial divide. We see a racial divide in terms of population of the people who are impacted, but is there a similar divide when it comes to businesses, like are Hispanic businesses or African American businesses minority owned, or maybe it just depends on where they're located and the type of business. But just wondered if you have any more information about that.
So a couple of things across the board, what we have found is that businesses that prior to COVID-19 had a robust online presence, not just having a website, but also social media engagement, in addition to a solid e-commerce platform, those businesses have done better in the COVID-19 economy. and regardless of the actual business type. So if you were essentially taking on Amazon, pre-COVID with online presence, and you had the opportunity through your website to process electronic transactions and deliver your goods or services to customers through an online data or intake collection tool, those businesses have done much better. Businesses that haven't had that kind of technical application haven't done as well. That's just the other thing specific to the question about a racial divide across the country. The data has been pretty clear that the effect of COVID, the negative economic impact, has been particularly acute for business owners of color, Black and Latino especially, and also Asian-owned businesses have suffered, as well. But it's been especially acute for African American and Hispanic-owned businesses. And there isn't anything that I've looked at that would suggest that isn't the case locally as well. Although, the data is a little spotty, but that's been a national, it's kind of a national trend.
Well, thank you. And yeah, if there's anything that we can do as the council, please let us know, or even in either legislative capacity or just in our capacity as representatives of our ward and doing action in our wards. And I guess the final thing I wanted to bring up was in terms of the recovery zones and downtown, and maybe this isn't, well, I don't know what your involvement in this was, but anyway, somebody sent out a picture of some of the Yodocs we have downtown around some of these areas, and that they're covered with just beer advertisements, and compared to some other jurisdictions who have just things that are more aesthetically welcoming, it looks more appropriate for us, as opposed to just looking like some frat celebration downtown. So I don't know, is there a move to, I know those are probably set up very quickly and maybe temporary, but is there are you looking at trying to shift that to be more, because I'm guessing these are probably going to be in place for a little while, right? The recovery zones.
Yeah.
Do you know how long
I don't. I guess as long as the executive order is in place, we will continue to operate. But it's probably up to you guys and the mayor. But to your question, I have seen some pictures of different cities that might have some areas that are more visually appealing, but those cities definitely don't look as safe as Annapolis. And we have gotten some pushback, more so early on with the rollout of the barricades because of the color scheme, and I guess they're kind of bulky and so forth. But the barricades were picked for safety reasons, and in addition, with regard to the color scheme, at night the orange and white pattern shows up pretty well for drivers, and so the barricades are actually filled with water, which has proven to help out a lot when it comes to cars impacting them and so forth. Just recently on Main Street, we had nobody seems to have witnessed it, but obviously there were some vehicles that hit some barricades and knocked them out of alignment, and it just kind of reinforced the fact that what we have, although it's not pretty, is working pretty well from a safety standpoint.
And is there any issue with the advertisements that are put on there? Or?
So we have if the advertisements are on the inside of the barricade, basically facing the restaurant or the retail establishment, we don't have any problem with that. If the advertisements are on the other side of the barricade, which would, maybe skew the view of a driver or not make the barricades as visible for safety reasons, then we would have an issue with that. And so that's kind of high level the rule of thumb that we have used in trying to police them, so to speak. But we've taken Public Works has taken the lead on that.
Okay. Yeah, I can certainly see putting advertisements up for businesses, for the names of the business and welcoming people in, but it just seems a little out of place for all the beer advertisements down there. But all that said, I think you're obviously very knowledgeable and working very hard on this issue, the overall recovery, and I thank you for your analysis, to my answer to my earlier questions, and for all your work on this.
Sure, thank you.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have several questions, Mr. Rice. But first of all, are you suggesting that those orange and white barricades are color scheme?
Not color. Mm-hmm. I might be colorblind.
Yeah, I think you need a little, maybe a feminine touch. I'm sorry, not being sexist, but we need to rethink that. We did see some pictures from Ms. Bucheister of some other cities and how they were managing to kind of more glamorize their barricades, not necessarily less safe, but more attractive in their cities. And there was not one that she sent me, but one that someone else sent me, of each individual table on the outside having a little like a garden house around each one. I mean, it's hard to describe, but it was extremely attractive. And there was a wooden structure around each table, which lent to its security. So there are some options. So maybe there can be a little thought to how to make our orange and white color scheme a little more attractive for our city. Mr. Rice, who else is working with you? There's two in your department. So is it just you and Hope taking care of all of this?
So Hope and I are in the lead, and we work also very closely with Felicia Nolan in the mayor's office, who is the special events coordinator for the city. So the three of us are kind of on the front line when it comes to the recovery zones.
Well, maybe you could tap into members of the recovery zone task force to give you some assistance, because this is a huge undertaking, and it's probably not going to go away anytime soon. So
yeah, that's a good idea. We do lean on, especially when it comes to messaging, the zone captains for each of the recovery zones, and so if we have problems, we try to go to the zone captains first, but that's not always something we can do logistically or realistically, depending on the nature of the issue. But that's a good suggestion. I'll definitely look at that to see if we can get some additional support.
Okay. You mentioned the businesses that had e-commerce when this all began. Is there still room for e-commerce to be added to those businesses that didn't have it at the very beginning? And if so, should we be doing more webinars to help them?
I definitely think there's still an opportunity. And we, in fact, did have some webinars as a part of the Small Business Recovery Task Force to educate and encourage folks who needed to move into that space so that their businesses could be more competitive. That's something that we will look into as well. From a programming standpoint, since the task force has wound down its normal activity and submitted a report, we've been referring folks with specific kind of questions to either let me back up. The Business Advisory Committee is ongoing, and they have not stopped providing assistance to Annapolis businesses that have requested it. So they are still going forward. But as far as the programming is concerned, we've been referring inquiries to the Small Business Development Center and the work that they do. They're also partners of ours, but their programming has continued, and that's part of what they do in addition to counseling. But it's definitely something that we probably need to double down on because we saw through the task force that there is a definite need. And we've seen in the actual economic results that there's a even bigger need than we realized.
Mm-hmm. I feel guilty because you already have a lot on your plate, and to be making additional suggestions to you. And I hope that you do have folks that you could kind of delegate some of these responsibilities to. We had requested funding, the Small Business Recovery Task Force. Our subcommittee had requested funding to assist with a PR campaign, to assist businesses, to help them know what's available. Has that picked up at all? I know Mr. Gormley had some ideas on how we could get the word out. I don't know whether we've been able to do anything with that or not.
So I have not pinned down Mr. Gormley yet. I will follow up with him today, and I would love to get some additional funds and spread the word. So I definitely think it's a worthwhile initiative, and I'll work with him on that.
Well, I had made the request for us for $25,000 to do that from the city manager and with Ms. Farrow. And the mayor had agreed when I approached him, representing the committee. The other thing that I had, and I still intend to pursue, is the support for the Forest Drive businesses, doing the Map Forest Drive or Shop Forest Drive, and just providing free maps with every business that's on Forest Drive to kind of draw some business to those areas. We seem to spend a lot of time in downtown, but we've got businesses all over our city that are not able to get the attention that they need. And so I am still pursuing that. Actually, I'm waiting for a printer to get back to me on that. And Mr. Savage, Alderman Savage, I'll be talking to you about it because there are 5 of us who have businesses on Forest Drive. And my concept has been to do a map of Forest Drive with a title that says Shop Forest Drive and simply list every single business that's on Forest Drive, and then give these out freely and give the businesses stacks so they can share with their customers so that we can generate more support to the businesses. And the Forest Drive businesses have more space, for particularly the restaurants. They can move outside without blocking a street or, a walkway or whatever. So, but we just have to let people know that they're out there, they're up and running, and we need to support them.
That's a great idea.
So I'll be back in touch with that as soon as I hear from the printer, and it's not a big expense for us. So, but my last question, which goes back to the very beginning of your comments, Mr. Rice, was about working through the holidays and into the winter. Is the expectation, and maybe this is where I want you to pull out your crystal ball from under your desk and answer whether we expect our restaurants to be, is there another level of opening of businesses coming down the pike that will allow restaurants to open with greater capacity? or is the outside dining going to be a part of our lives through the winter? And of course, we know the impact that's going to have on businesses if they're only open. What are they open now? At 25% inside capacity?
I believe that they can have up to 50% inside, but if you hadn't asked me, I could have told you.
Of course. Of course. So, but anyway, I guess we need to keep and you probably already have your finger on what may be coming down the pipe, but I just wonder what the governor's crystal ball is saying about how restaurants are going to survive through the winter.
Yeah, so there are a lot of obviously factors at play. We really never know when the governor is going to have a press conference or what he's going to say. And so every time that happens, we have to kind of calibrate and play catch up. And then, after the governor makes his announcement, we usually have to wait to see what the county executive decides to do, whether or not, he is going to follow the governor's lead or go in a different direction. So it's really hard to predict. And then, of course, we don't know what the infection rate is going to be and the positivity rate and all the things that the health department is looking at. So this entire experience has been, pretty dynamic and a moving target for us. But if I were a betting man, I would say that the outdoor dining experience is going to be with us for some time.
Mm-hmm. That means we should invest in heaters.
Yes, the mayor has expressed an interest in trying to secure some funding, and we're investigating heaters and tents and that sort of thing for restaurants. And so hopefully we'll have some good information soon so we can make some well-informed decisions.
Okay, I hope that we are looking at supporting non-restaurant businesses with the same level of fervor that we give our restaurants, because we have an awful lot of small businesses in the city, and they see us putting energy and resources into restaurants, and they're not seeing us the same kind of support. So, I would hope that every time we do something to help our restaurants, as we should, that we also do equally for those businesses that are not restaurants, but still need some help to survive. So that's my last comment.
Absolutely. No, we try to be as balanced as possible. And sometimes the interests of retail and restaurants converge. Sometimes they're incongruent, but we try to be as even-handed as possible and support all the businesses that have been hurt.
So, well, good. Thank you. All right. If there are no more questions for Manager Rice, Alderman, more questions for Mr. Rice? Thank you, Mr. Rice. We appreciate you coming before us, and we'll see you next month.
All right. Thank you.
Take care now. All right. And our last item, Downtown Partnership. Is Mr. Evans with us? I don't see him on. Takia, should Mr. Evans be, he is here.
Yes, he's here.
All right. Welcome, Mr. Evans. You're on mute.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. I just got kicked off the system, but I did want to talk about the recovery zones. They have been a great help for the restaurants this year. They do not get the restaurants back to where they used to be, though. But they are a lifeline. And I agree with the comments that some of them could look better than they do. I just had been having meetings with the ones at Market Space, and that group would love to invest money to make it look better with barricades that are actually planters, maybe some type of shading over the top versus individual tents, some ambient lighting and things could be done. But in order to get them to invest the money, they would need to know that they're going to be there more than knowing they're on a month-to-month basis, which makes it hard for them to invest anything in that space. And if we look at the realities of COVID and best case scenarios, we're probably at least another year away till we can have a mass distribution of some type of vaccine if we get a quick approval. So we got a long-term problem here, and we keep looking at this as if it's going away in 3 months. And I really don't believe that's the case. And we're going to follow that immediately, COVID, with rebuilding a parking garage and tearing it down, then doing stormwater management and flood mitigation and rebuilding a city dock. So we got 5 years of pain coming downtown. So we really need to, as we're doing these capital projects and dealing with COVID, we really have to think about how do we not have our businesses shut down during this long-term trauma that they're going to go through. And one of the ways is to have maybe some recovery zones like on Market Space that become some permanent zones or semi-permanent zones through the hardship times. And if we know that's going to be the case, maybe businesses can step in and help with some of those costs. So I would love to have that conversation with the city. I'd also love to have a conversation with the city about, what does the fall look like for retailers? Because the recovery zones do not help retailers. And the retailers have suffered through the spring and summer because either they're shut down or people are buying on Amazon and having home deliveries because they're scared to come out. And small retailers do not have online stores. So, and there's many reasons for that. Their product mix changes. If you're a sole operator trying to take care of the customer in front of you, you don't have time to build a website. But just to kind of give you an idea, downtown we have 90 retailers approximately. And of those 90, 59 of them, you cannot even buy a gift card online. So they're not set up to deal with Amazon and Walmart and Target who are moving online. And it's easy to say we just have a seminar, but really it's going to require a web designer to build that out probably for them. And it's going to cost money, and their revenues are already down probably 50%. If you look at the successful people, the Amazons and the Targets and the Walmarts, if you pull up their stock reports, they'll tell you they're bringing in record revenue, but they're not bringing in record profits because the margins are much smaller when you buy online because of shipping costs, employees have to pull it, the packaging costs. So it's a much smaller margin if you move to an online world. So it's some really concerns. The good news is there's been some state and county and federal grants that have really helped keep many of these retailers afloat for the summer. But it doesn't seem like there's programs that are rolling out for the fall. So as that money dries up, I'm hearing some retailers or restaurants even that are downtown talking about closing for the winter months just to save costs. But once they start closing, it's harder to get them to reopen. So I'm really concerned about what's going to come for the holidays and what's going to come after the holidays downtown. I really believe that marketing is key to encouraging people to come out and positive messages that it is safe to come out if you follow safe protocols that we need to be pushing to encourage people to come out. I know there's questions about what retailers or restaurants are doing better than others. And if you are a restaurant that has always been good for carry out, you're doing just as well as last year, or maybe even better for a lot of them. If you're a traditional restaurant, you're not hitting last year's numbers, even if you have outside seating. So, and none of the retailers are doing as well. Home improvements are doing well because a lot of people are at home and they spent the spring cleaning their house and discovering what needed to be repaired. And if they didn't lose their job, people were spending money or taking their federal stimulus check, and a lot of people did home repairs. We know the city council, you guys talked about the city council's, the Small Business Task Force recommendations, and it really does need funding. And I would say marketing more than ever would be key. It's nice that the city's building another website, so we'll have the Downtown Partnership and all the other business associations who have their online directories, and the Visitor Center has a directory, but people don't know where to go. It doesn't make any difference. So really, I do believe marketing is key, and I look forward to you guys putting some money in towards economic Small Business Task Force program. The Arts District did receive a grant, and we are actively trying to recruit new businesses and artists. We're spending $5,000 on doing a direct mail campaign to arts organizations and businesses within a 60-mile radius, and a social media campaign. The goal is to reach artists, arts-related businesses and organizations, and commercial real estate agents to let them know the benefits of coming to Annapolis and bringing the arts here. I don't know if you guys saw the commentary I wrote in the paper about a week ago, but phase 3 mostly affects the arts. And in Anne Arundel County, we are not in phase 3 like the rest of the state. Unemployment in the arts community nationwide is 66%, which is huge because most events have been shut down, most venues have been shut down. So it is really hard for the arts community at the moment. Just to give you an idea of what I've tried to do to make a difference, I'm managing the recovery zone on West Street and the one at Market Space. Between June 1st and September 16th of this year, we will have hired 170 gigs for musicians to perform in those areas, plus hired security to try to make sure that those areas are better managed than some of the others and keep downtown inviting. So that's kind of gives you a little bit of ideas of what's happening, but funding is key. The Arts District receives $15,000 a year from the city. We're really grateful, but try to run an organization that was created at the request of the city and, with funding like that. The Downtown Partnership receives $50,000 for the year. And like I said, we're managing 2 recovery zones, plus trying to maintain the Main Street program. It is very tough this year. We've had to make cuts. We no longer have flower baskets downtown, and we're not sure what's going to happen this year with the holidays. Will there be decorations? Will there be Midnight Madness? We just don't know at the moment. So it's a tough year.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Ms. Alderman Savage, you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I do have a few. Thank you for the report, Mr. Evans. I guess, first of all, in terms of the retailers, I was trying to listen to hear some other things that we might be able to do. I heard getting a possible facilitator to get some websites created for these retailers. I wonder if there's anything else. Because, in terms of funding, I don't know if we could use some of our COVID funding for this. It'd be nice if we could. Otherwise, we may just have to try to utilize the existing city staff that we have. But did you have any other suggestions for retailers that you wanted to let us know about?
So retail, one is getting them online to try to help them sustainable, especially if numbers jump up and there gets to be more shutdowns. And 2, holiday season is, a month and a half away. So what can we do to encourage people to come downtown and shop? What does that look like? Does that mean, can we have music outside? Should we not? Because of the crowds, you shut down the street, just spread out people so they go beyond the sidewalks. Do you have walkable nights? Do you cancel it because of safety concerns? But, retail really survives on November and December. And we haven't started as an organization to be able to plan because we don't know what government restrictions are going to be out there, even if things remain the same. So I think we have to start some type of dialogue on if COVID numbers remain the same, this is what it could look like, realizing we may have to dial back in worst case scenario, but we need to start getting some kind of planning and process. Will the city be providing free parking for shoppers this year so we can compete or not? So usually we start getting that information by now so we can start putting it out. So it's going to be a tough year, but I think we need to look at what can we do to encourage people to not shop Amazon and go visit their local retailer and make a purchase, and they can do it safely if they wear a mask and social distance and wash their hands.
Mr. Rice, are you still there?
He appears to be. Yes, he's still here.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I was just wanted to ask you, after hearing those comments, is the task force or your office, either one, developing any kind of plan for how to help retailers? Would be one question. Then the second part would be a plan for the holiday season in terms of what that might look like.
Yeah, so as I said in my report, we've actually started conversations with Eric about the fall and the winter, and specifically Halloween and Midnight Madness. And they've been preliminary, but so those conversations have started. And with regard to recommendations for retailers, we have 83 total recommendations from the Small Business Recovery Task Force report. I've actually been going through more recently and checking off, things that have actually been implemented. And so we have some recommendations in there for retail as well. I would have to go back and, check the report to come with some specifics, but we've tried to be as comprehensive as possible and have recommendations for all the industries that are either key to Annapolis or that have been especially hard hit because of COVID.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And in terms of the arts, Mr. Evans, I certainly hear you on that. That's big. I think we really missed out on the summer with a lot of the arts downtown. But I think the city's been trying to stick with the county's approach, for better or worse, to have that kind of consistent message. So I don't know. The challenge, if we do something different than the county, the challenge as well, people may get confused about what the rules are for various jurisdictions. And I don't know if do we have the numbers locally in terms of the health department numbers, the COVID numbers, in terms of if the cases are going up in Annapolis, or do we just have that larger aggregate number for the county?
Well, I can answer from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. They get the numbers almost daily, but we are still lumped in with the county. We've not been able to get the city numbers from the health department. So they do it by zip code, 21403 and 21401, neither of which are totally dedicated to the city. So we can only look at the data based upon the complete zip code. So, and I think about 50% or less is actually city. So we don't know.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, are you finished, Alderman?
I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, I have a couple of questions. You mentioned the fact that there are 59 out of the 90 retailers who don't have an online presence. And it's not that they need somebody to tell them what to do, they need somebody to do it for them. Would it benefit if we could hire our own web designer and provide this as a service to these businesses free of charge?
So it's not even just the design. So if you start, so a lot of them have a website, they just don't have the online store. So to build an online store requires someone to go into the store, take a picture, the description, the quantity. So there's an extra charge for your website to have an online store, and there's another charge to be able to accept a credit card payment. So what they really need is a grant that would pay for the cost of the online store, the payments, and the payment system, and someone to help them get it started.
So what are we talking about? Would you have a estimate or a template of what something like that would cost, start to finish?
Yeah, so to do something very basic, just to get the downtown retailers, and we're not even talking about the restaurants or the other wards, we're talking probably 50 grand. A grant for 50 grand to $50,000, yeah, to do the retailers downtown.
Okay, well,
and that would be very basic, probably giving them like a 10-item store.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, maybe we have to come up with another option. But anyway, it sounds like we need to be making decisions, or the mayor needs to be making decisions about parking restrictions and other restrictions sooner rather than later. Are you having discussions with the mayor, or are those discussions through Mr. Rice's office, or so that you guys can start to plan in a timely fashion what's going to happen in the fall and winter?
Yeah, so I recently reached out to Stephen Rice, who we'll be bringing up in, I'm assuming, the next parking meetings that I used to be a part of, so that they can start getting those plannings done. So those reminders have recently gone out.
Okay. Well, please keep us in the loop as to what we can help you with. As Alderman Savage says, we're here to support you. We all appreciate all that you're doing. And, I guess we'll do whatever we can. I'd love to be able to say we could provide those $50,000 grants to everybody, but or a little more realistic than that. But anything that you can come up with that, we can do to help, we want to be able to do it. So you get an idea, bring it to the Finance Committee and let us see what we can do to help.
Appreciate it.
All right. How did the first Sunday go?
First Sundays have done well. We are operating with restrictions, so we are allowed 1/3 of our normal space and vendors, so we can do social distancing, taking out all the music. So it's not really a festival anymore. It is just an art market. But it's done really well. We created a virtual one as well, so that people can shop online who don't want to come out. But each month, more and more people are coming out. So I would say people are feeling much safer. If you look at Labor Day numbers, I think the airlines reported 900,000 people a day traveling compared to 2 million a day last year, which is about a 30% increase in number of travelers that traveled in July. The hotels downtown this weekend were at 90% capacity. I think last July they were at 50% capacity. So people are getting more and more comfortable coming out. We just need to make sure they feel safe and remember that, we train them to go to Netflix instead of to our local arts. We've trained them to go to Amazon instead of to our local stores. That we need them shopping local. Mm-hmm. And giving them businesses the opportunity to do that. It's hard to plan when you're shut down and have no idea when your reopen date is.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I haven't been brave enough to come out to First Sunday yet. I'm usually there, but...
You are. We'll come out for dinner under the stars. They're not crowded this year. Spreading them out, to 5 and 7 day a week outdoor dining events have reduced the crowding so that they are comfortable for people to come out and sit and enjoy some music and dinner.
I did try one Wednesday, but it was already booked, so too late. But I will. So, all right. If there are no other questions for Mr. Evans, thank you so very much, and know that we're here.
Thank you.
All right. All right. I think we've exhausted our agenda. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Seeing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us and helping us. Have a good one.